or not. It's just the bias level that they have about you is on another level, man. So like it's difficult as a black person, white person, Chinese person to do anything, but it's harder when they have a thought process about who you are before they've ever met you. You know, just
It's
living
hard
in
to do
America is
anything as a
hard.
black person because they put so many labels on us. Oh, black on black crime. Black on black crime just insinuates that we all participate in crime.
No, what black on black crime is real. Reality is location.
There's
All
there's
crimes.
white on white crime. There's Asian on Asian
Dude,
crime.
most crime
the
is
only-
against the same race.
But
like,
yeah, exactly.
because that's where people live.
But the only crime that's ever glamorized is black on black.
Not only that, man, it's definitely been proven that white people and black people use drugs at the same rate at a teenage age. But black teenagers that are caught using drugs it's way more likely for a black person to get caught using drugs.
I've had plenty of white homies get caught with drugs. I've had plenty of black homies who haven't.
No. I'm just saying it's been proven that white teenagers.
Still,
no, this is a real thing.
But
white teenagers and black teenagers use drugs at the same exact rate. There's no difference in the communities between who's using drugs versus who's not. The biggest problem is that black people, containing a less population percentage, they have less people, but more black teenagers get caught using drugs than white teenagers, even though they use it at the same percentage, and there's less black people.
That's what the cops are looking for.
No, it's because cops patrol high crime areas that are almost 100%.
You can look at it from where we're at.
100% they're black. They're black neighborhoods.
A majority of the black people, my people, we've been pushed to certain areas where they know where to patrol.
Well, this happened in the 70s and 80s. It's called redlining.
Yeah,
if you have time in your day,
it definitely happened. I can tell you where every black family lives in Christiansburg.
Well, it's part of it is because that's what the bank would allow. So just to give a definition to the crowd of people that may be watching what redlining is and what it means to the society today, right?
Come on,
most of you guys out there understand that in America there are 30-year loans on mortgages. Right? When you buy a house, it's a 30-year process. You got to buy the house, then you got to pay on it for 30 years, then you own it, right? So in the 70s and 80s, we're getting the results of what happened then in the housing market today. Whether you want to like it or not or understand that or not, from a financial perspective, the policies in the 70s and 80s are coming to fruition right now because the housing market takes 30 years to catch up because that's how houses are usually bought on 30-year mortgages. So in the 70s and 80s, people were forced to buy houses in certain areas and not allowed to buy houses in other areas. That's what redlining is. Redlining was a government program that was put in place to force people in certain areas based on what they look like before the HUD, which is called HUD, became a thing, and housing laws became a thing where you couldn't say you can't go to this neighborhood. So in the 70s and 80s, people were forced to sign 30-year mortgages. Not really forced, but that was the most common, was a 30-year mortgage in certain areas of a city. And then that's the black area, quote unquote, the black area. And then this is the white area, right? So what ends up happening is as wages start to grow in the white community, wages didn't grow in the black community. So what happens is when taxes are assessed in the white community, there's more money for the government to spend on things like education and schools, right? So in the black communities where they were forced to only be allowed to buy houses here, wages never grew, so the tax base never grew. So you got schools that have less tax base, which has less money, which means you have 40 kids in a class. You got 6 books to share. That's what happens when you housing has that much of an impact on the rest of the financial world. Housing is so important.
Only thing about Christiansburg that I'll say, redlining definitely happens, but we also went to the same school.
Now. And if you look at 1990, you didn't. If you look at 1985, you didn't. If you look at 2000 early, you didn't.
Mr. Callaway,
now you are.
Mr. Callaway, one of the most prominent teachers around here, who just got just caught that charge. He went to segregated school that was all black.
It's not segregation. This is segregation through economics, right? It's not segregation. It's not saying, all right, black people can go to this school only and white people can go to school only. What it does is, what redlining did today is that this segment of the population is going to live in this area because that's what happens when you adjust the housing market. And then when the housing market gets adjusted, people are forced to live in one area. That affects so many things. Where you live affects everything about your life, whether you want to understand that or not. The housing market affects so many other aspects of life. This goes back to the student loan discussion we had the other day. You know what I'm saying? Like, the housing market is one of those things that universally impacts what you do in the world. Depending on where you live, it's going to depend on whether or not you have exposure to drugs, whether or not you have exposure to a police force that's benevolent or malevolent. It's going to depend whether or not you have
Section 8.
exposure to just growth opportunities that other people wouldn't. You're going to be a coal miner if you live in West Virginia. That's a high likelihood if you were living in the 60s and 70s. That's never going to happen if you live in New York. Understand that where you live has a major impact on what you do and what is happening around you. Where you live is so important, and the government manipulated that in the 70s and 80s, and that caused major problems in the 90s and 2000s.
Section 8.
Well, Section 8 now in America is not a particular area. A lot of people on Section 8 can live anywhere because the government will pay the tab regardless, right?
But in Christiansburg,
that's the redlining is what happened in Christiansburg. Guaranteed.
The red line definitely happened because if you the train tracks at Split Depot,
it's immediate right there.
Where the train tracks at? If you go to the left, that's where all the black people live. That's where all my friends live. If you go to the right, that's where all the rich people live.
I mean, where do you think the phrase "I'm going to the other side of the tracks"? I come from the other side of the tracks comes from? Where do you think that phrase comes from? Like, let's be real. It doesn't come out of thin air. A lot of small towns are like.
Look, I'm not gonna lie.
It doesn't come out of thin air.
Take a piss. Joe, talk to the people.
I will continue to talk about this financial shit because this is the shit I love. So the concept of the red line and districting and gerrymandering, if you want to really get deep into it, has really impacted life today. The major point of the whole argument is that there are definitely significant differences between the poor parts of a city and the richer or more affluent parts of a city. Whether you want to realize it or not, there is not an equal opportunity for people that grew up poor versus people that grew up rich. It's not about black or white at this point in America. It's about rich versus poor. The problem is that most black people are not well off. I mean, let's be real. And then that comes back to housing. Like, you're stuck in an area where there's maybe not a good job opportunity. Maybe there's not good public transportation. This doesn't happen as much in the cities, but in the rural areas and rural communities, you have people living on $12,000, $15,000 a year. You can't make it out of anywhere when you make $15,000 a year. You can't improve your standard of living when you make $15,000 a year. You can't go to school because somebody has to pay the bills, right? Like, it's not something you can just wake up and do. Because there's so much stress with making $15,000 a year that comes with that. That's $7. It's $15,000 a year. That's $8 an hour. What are you gonna do with that? What are you gonna do if where you live only has jobs that pay that much? Well, I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna walk 25,000 miles to get a different job? Like, that's obviously crazy. Because I think the world's only about 70. But anyway, you're not gonna be able to walk to get a different job. It just can't happen. Like, it's just not something that's doable. The financial problems in America, that the wealth separation definitely comes from housing, and it comes from inequality of opportunity. I'm not saying equality of outcome. I think it's stupid that we should try to force people into jobs they're not good at, right? I'm not saying that everybody should be equal, but damn it, we can start equal. Everybody that's 10 years old right now can have an equal chance to be a doctor. And in America right now, that's not how things work. You can pull a kid from Compton. He's not going to have the same opportunity to become a doctor that a kid from Bel Air is, even though that's fucking 60 miles away. What's the difference between 60 miles? Is it the intelligence level, capability level? Fuck no. The kids that 10 years old, they have the same exact mindset. They're not gonna. There's nothing different between someone from Compton and Bel Air. The only difference is someone in Bel Air has way more opportunity because they're from Bel Air, right? Am I lying? Same in Virginia. Same way in Virginia. Someone from Christiansburg that lives on this side of the tracks where we at, Plum Creek, holla at your boy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not gonna have the same level of opportunity as somebody that comes from Blacksburg.
Even just use my story. After high school, I never thought about college, and I had so many friends go. And it's not even a black and white thing. I had black friends go to college, I had white friends go to college, but just where I grew up, how I grew up, going to college was never thought of mine. And shout out to my sister, Nicole Davis, who just graduated
props, man.
from UNC Greensboro, who now has a job. But she also lived in North Carolina her whole life, where she was just exposed to different things. And like you said, grew up on this side of the tracks opposed to this one.
That's it, man. I mean, explain to me.
That was never a thought.
If someone can explain to me with clarity the difference between a 10-year-old that grew up, and the best way they look at it is California, because it's so small of a distance between such huge amounts of money and such little amount of money. There's a small distance. It's like really, it's so small, it's so close together. What's the difference between a 10-year-old kid that's in Compton and a 10-year-old kid that's in Bel Air? What's the difference? Or Hollywood, or what is the difference in the 10-year-old kid?
Money.
They both have the same capabilities to do great things.
But one has money and one doesn't.
Exactly. So in America, I don't know how the solution is going to be a thing, but this is the only country where we even think that it's possible to solve this, right? This is why America's great, is because we even think that this is a possibility to fix. How do we fix the situation so there's a 10-year-old from a bad neighborhood that's broke has the same opportunity as a 10-year-old from, you know, a super rich area and background? How do we fix it so those 10-year-olds are equal? Because that's the key to society, right? In my opinion, that's how we solve every problem in America. Does that make sense?
What about?
So if we can make the 10-year-old from Compton have an equal chance as a 10-year-old from Bel Air, that will solve every problem in America. That's a true meritocracy, right? That becomes a true meritocracy. When the kid that's 10 years old from Compton in a broke-ass family has the same exact opportunities that a kid that's 10 years old from Bel Air with a super rich family. When those two things line up, the best man wins. Too many times in America, the best man doesn't win. Because when you're 10 years old in Bel Air, the opportunity you have is much greater than when you're 10 years old in Compton. If you can make those two equal, somehow the 10-year-old is equal to the other 10-year-old, then the best man wins. Whoever will be the smartest of the two 10-year-olds will win, and that one will be rewarded. That is the key to America. That is what America is supposed to be. The two kids start equally, and whoever works harder, has more dedication, has more spirit, has more intelligence, has more ability to learn things, will get ahead. Like, that's what it's supposed to be. What we have now is not